Welcome to ChamberTalk, podcast where we dive into experiences and insights of leaders who are making a real impact in our community. I'm your host, Andrew Gregson, and I'm joined today by AT&T team, Chanta Peak and Dan Vozenilek. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's right. Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. I really appreciate it. Just before we jump in, I wanted to extend a special shout out to Joe Linz and his team here at Century 21 Discovery for generously providing us with their conference room to record this episode. As many of you know, our chamber office is undergoing renovations. And in fact, hopefully within the next week or so, we'll be back in there since our fair in April. Anyway, thank you, Century 21 Discovery. We really value your membership and allowing us to be here. Thank you. So just to start off, we were having a little bit of a conversation offline about Chanta, and she was talking about how she loved to inspire women in the workplace. So before we go into the business of AT&T, let's just get a little bit of background with you helping people in the workplace.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. My name is Chanta Peak, AT&T FIRSTNET Sales Director. My past experience and current experience in helping people is I'm an inspiring motivational speaker. I actually have blogs on LinkedIn, YouTube channel, and podcasts in prior years. But it's ultimately inspiring women, especially making sure that they have opportunities in leadership positions. So I've done different judge panels at Pepperdine University, UCLA, USC, just to inspire especially women in technology. So currently on pause, of course, when you have kids, there's things that you want to focus on priority in your life. And now that they're at the age where I can have fun again, I'm back. So looking forward to in future events to speak and also to provide any insight that may help other women to aspire to their dreams.
Well, I'm glad you shared that with us, and I know you weren't ready for that.
No, I was not.
Thank you for jumping in. But the thing about it is, for us, one of our major feature events for the year is called She. It Speaks, Hears, Empowers. We have it this year on October the 3rd, and we're just gearing up to, pre-sale tickets and everything. And of course, me personally, I'm always looking for an opportunity. So maybe we've got a keynote speaker for next year. So thank you for sharing that. And hopefully we all remain friends after this podcast.
Absolutely.
And you might be one of those guests. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm also joined here with Dan. And Dan, just before we sort of launch into asking Chanta more questions, can you explain to us a little bit about, what you guys do? Because I'm not interviewing somebody who just sells cell phones at AT&T. This is like AT&T, the corporation.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, AT&T, as you know, we've been around for over 140 years, bringing everything from your standard phone lines all the way to, our mobile network. We've got all sorts of devices that help business, and standard users, right? And so we're a huge corporation that has a lot of innovation. We've got our own lab that creates products. I think Chanta's going to talk about some of those today. And just, a company that really wants to make sure the community is able to communicate and be safe.
And Dan, I'm terribly sorry. It was totally my fault. Do you mind explaining what your job here at AT&T is?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dan Vozenilek, AT&T External Affairs Lead, and in charge of Orange County. So I represent AT&T out in the community. I'm able to help with some of our philanthropic efforts. Just last week, brag a little bit, we gave 150 laptops away in Anaheim, Boys and Girls Club. So I get the pleasure to do some of those fun events. It's part of my job.
That's beautiful. That's Boys and Girls Club. Is it Anaheim and Cyprus?
It was Greater Anaheim, Cyprus.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. We know them. We're good friends with them. That's awesome. Thank you. And your area, you say Orange County, all of Orange County?
The entire, all 34 cities in Orange County.
Oh, that's quite a big area. So anyway, so the reason why I asked our wonderful guests on today is because Dan first reached out to me because AT&T are members of the chamber, and he was just talking about FIRSTNET 101, and that's why we're here today with Chanta, who's going to come in and tell us a little bit about the internet parts of FIRSTNET 101. So you want to give an opening about what it's all about.
Absolutely. So thank you again for having us, and to talk about what's near and dear to my heart is FIRSTNET. Coming from a sales background, going to operation, now public safety, one of the best things about going into this role is that we, as AT&T, is the only carrier that opted into an RFP process, which is, in regards to answering on the FirstNet Authority, the government, on making sure who's going to help us run the government network, which is FirstNet. And FirstNet is the only nationwide communication network built with and for public safety. It specializes with different innovative tools and technology specifically for public safety and their needs. And so from radios to telephones to laptops in vehicles and so forth, a lot of it is backed up by FirstNet, which is a network itself. So overall, if you think about it, the unfortunate circumstances that we had back in 9/11, right? There was where we didn't have any communications when that happened. And so the government decided that we needed to have a commission board, the 9/11 Commission, that really focused in on how do we make sure this never happens again, that our first responders have communication throughout in times of, terrorist attack, emergencies, and so forth. And so that's where FirstNet came about. And so making sure that we have a public safety network allowing interoperability, which means, possibly, working with different applications across different carriers and so forth to make sure is agnostic. And so as much as it's run by AT&T and from a public partnership standpoint, it still makes sure that we can still use applications within our ecosystem to help with current technologies in the city now. So a lot of times cities and counties don't really have to change what they're doing currently, but we're more of a plug and play. So it makes it so much easier to make sure that when commercial networks get congested, FirstNet is the Hove lane, which is the carpool lane, to make sure public safety gets communicated.
So thank you for.
Oh, sorry, so long.
That was good. So, that's a great explanation of the whole wild thing. However, most of our listeners are a little bit like me. So we understand, my cell phone works from the local cell tower, and maybe if the lines go down, I can use the internet to do it. Is this, could you dumb it down a little bit about the communicational part is, what AT&T are providing these emergency services as far as you say communication, whereas all lines are down, but we've got a special one for you, or,
Absolutely. Yes. So if you think about it, prior to FirstNet, all of us had cell phones, right? I don't know, remember the Nokia bar and, the Palm Pod, the brick phones, the Trio. All of those have been run on commercial, right? We call it commercial consumer network. And when FirstNet came through in 2017, it allowed what's called a spectrum called Band 14, which is designed and owned by the FirstNet Authority, the government. And so AT&T has the authorization to help control and oversee with the FirstNet Authority on that spectrum. So when emergency happens, not only commercial let's say a network or signal is used, but if it gets so congested, that band 14 signal is locked down. So you and I, we're not going to get on that. Sorry, too sad, but it's good for first responders.
Sure.
And so when you have situations with an accident and or things that require public safety to communicate with the local fire or Cal OES with Cal Fire or different other agencies and entities, it's a direct line. So looking at that, that's basically locked to your chip in your phone, or now we call it eSIMs.
Sure. Right. They're going to change again soon.
It's like, it's going to be invisible SIM cards.
That's true.
But the idea that's, if you were to look at it from in just the simple terms, it's lockdown signal to the handset device of first responders so that they can communicate in time of emergency.
No, I'm assuming, because I do believe not everybody is necessarily, I don't know if signed up's the right word, but not everybody is utilizing this one particular system at the moment. Is that right? So for those who are using it, clearly they're going to be able to communicate and get some help or whatever they need. For those who aren't, what struggles do they see?
So
do you see?
What for my experience, working in the field and currently fires all around California and up north, what I've noticed is that those who are not on FirstNet do feel the congestion, do sense the inability to upload or download data,
information, whatever they need,
the maps and so forth. And so we end up working with the agency to supplement and provide deployables, which is satellite, SatCult, which is satellite on wheels, light truck.
The big old bustle truck.
Yes, and that we roll out with FirstNet on it. So we understand agency A, we understand that you're not on FirstNet, but because we do have ability to get you these devices, we're going to bring in a satellite on light truck, so that you can have that communication. So from my experience, it's congestion, it's inability to communicate, and also it's overall for them, it's data. Data is king right now. Right. And so it's important that we have that capacity, and then we do have that for FirstNet.
You brought up a good point there, which none of us really think about. Back in the day, I remember when I was a Boy Scout, you get a map, you learn how to read a map and you use it. And I'm sure this day and age, emergency services, just like the military and everybody, they still use maps. But more and more so, we are relying on data that comes through our phones, whether they can show heat, spots or whatever else, right? I'm just imagining how it is, which you're saying that's the type of data that you need a clear channel through to send to, so people can do their jobs more effectively.
Absolutely. Right. Because FirstNet is the only network that has band 14 that's able to lock down the signal. No other carriers can lock down the signal, but FirstNet with AT&T. And so when you think about it, we're very grateful for this journey that we've had with the FirstNet Authority. We're at 28,500 agencies now, 6.1 million connections on FirstNet in almost 6 to 7 years. And so out of a 25-year contract. So if you think about the magnitude, that's just a bit of what, is to come in regards to connections. So we're very grateful that we're able to support the agencies now and to basically cultivate a very collaborative environment to tell us what is your needs. We talk about heat maps, right? We talk about different things that weather charts. We have Y-axis.
And they change so quickly, don't they?
Yes, we work with Y-axis mapping with fire departments. Right. And so there's different exercises that we do throughout the state for emergency exercises and drills. And so more than people realize.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It goes on and on and on.
Yes.
To the emergency services, they go, we know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. The average Joe's like, I'm not quite sure. I get that.
Yes.
So do you think, just over to you, Dan, for a moment, do you feel, obviously this is a huge contract for AT&T.
Sure.
And, for somebody who wasn't brought up in America, all I remember from movies is every telephone had AT&T written on it back in the day.
Sure.
Now, do you feel that, AT&T were more geared up for sort of winning, so to speak, such a contract from the government because they've been such a long-standing, communicational company in America?
Sure, absolutely. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we've been around for over 140 years. Our network is one of the best in the entire nation, right? We have invested so much money into our network, our mobile network, over the last decade, and more so in California than any other state. And so we are well situated. We have, a huge crew of employees that are trained, right, to respond when we have any sort of natural disaster, fire, to restore services immediately. And we've also designed our network around FirstNet, right? So all of our cell sites now include band 14, like Chanta is talking about, right? We've upgraded those that didn't, and we're still in the process of doing some other tweaks. But from a network perspective, we're the only ones that have those capabilities at this point. So yeah, we are really well situated, and I think we're probably the best in the nation to go ahead and provide this service.
And just out of general interest, how Chanta mentioned earlier on that nearly everybody has a cell phone now. Has the communicational side of life changed because there's not many landlines anymore? Has that changed your infrastructure? I mean, can you share a bit about that?
Sure. I always like to tell people, the network is sort of like a garden hose, right? So the more people that are utilizing their wireless devices and using that data that we talked about earlier, or voice, the smaller that footprint. So we end up having to build a network that is robust, right? That allows for more and more usage. To your point, people aren't utilizing landlines like they used to, right? It's really, most folks are reliant on cell phones. And most families have, what is it now? Average 12, I think, wireless devices, per household. And that goes up.
Your TV, your phone, game console. Sure. Yeah, I get it.
Your thermostat, all these sorts of things, right? Yeah. Cars nowadays. So we have been building this network in order to include all those things and evolve, right? It's an evolution, right? So we're moving away from the old copper, right? Started off with the telegraph, then it moved on to the, the home phone, and now it's fiber, and we're trying to, and wireless. And so we're trying to make that as robust as possible.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So one of the things, we'll jump back into FirstNet for a moment. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I suppose is a question, because you were talking about how, you want to be able to help all these different cities to have this immediate connection. What would you say some of the questions would be that somebody might ask? Well, how easy is it? Like, you said before, plug and play. Plug and play is literally plug it in. It works with most systems, because cities have different systems right now, right?
Absolutely. So we do have dedicated support from I'm in sales, but I always feel like I do more. There's operations, as account management, we all are wearing different hats in our jobs nowadays, right? So the idea is, when we work with different cities and agencies, we basically bring in our team. Every city has a dedicated account manager, a director, like myself. I actually cover the entire state of California. For
a small area, isn't it?
Just a small area. Okay. I do have peers that do state accounts and county accounts, but for, the city of Huntington Beach and or Fountain Valley or so forth in Orange County, those are part of my accounts. And what we do is we would love the opportunity to sit down and tell us what your pain points are. Mm-hmm. And because of the vast years that AT&T has, there's maybe some tools and resources that we may have to help with getting things up and running for FirstNet. I've had many opportunities to work with, LAPD, for example, and deploy over 10,000 different devices from not just cell phones, but laptops, and get everything outfitted in their buildings. All of that could be done. And we'd have to do it, the deployments itself, within 3 months. So that during COVID. And so
when nobody was at work. It's crazy.
So it's one of those things where we listen to the agencies, to the cities, and say, what do you need from us? Because I know having communication up and running is important. And so we make it to where it's catered to your needs, your timeline, and ultimately bringing in the resources and experts, regardless if it's wireless, fiber, or cybersecurity, for example. We have it all where we partner with everybody. So it can be very easy. But the only thing is, it's going to be time to get in front of it and figure out what the right solution looks like.
And I'm assuming, because, as Dan was mentioning, how Ford, the corporation, has been looking at moving into the future. Mm-hmm. So also, as you're stumbling across new things that are happening in the world, the FirstNet will also continue to grow forward, because it's already ahead of the game, but it's always looking to change. Would that be a true statement?
Absolutely. As Dan mentioned before, we're always upgrading. And one of those upgrades include 5G. And making sure that we have things in place at FirstNet with our 5G core. So we definitely have 6 different cores along different critical locations, in the United States. And all of those are 4G LTE. But that's for Band 14, we were going to upgrade it to 5G. So that's coming around, and making sure that we have faster speed, larger capacity. We also have ability to have, mission-ready devices and applications. We have over 200 apps right now that are in our ecosystem that is built with public safety, that's accessible for free, in the FirstNet app store. And then we have a FirstNet portal that allows agencies who are FirstNet subscribers to see the evolution and build with our coverage maps. And so it allows really anyone to get access to what our future looks like. We have things that are coming about with satellite and so forth. I'm not going to say too much about, but if you think about it, our phones right now, the newest, latest iPhone, you can have satellite turned on, right? If there's no coverage.
Right.
Why not with FirstNet,
Yeah.
right? So those are the things that are coming forth, right, that we're very excited about.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So to the average person in the field there, the emergency service operator, how user-friendly, I mean, you mentioned a lot of apps and all the rest of stuff. How user-friendly is this for these professionals?
For FirstNet, it's just a matter of having a phone. It's it's the signal. It's the band 14. So everything just works as your fingertips. You can go walk in to a local AT&T store as an emergency doctor and activate on your personal account line. Even personal lines you can have it for, because if you show that you are an ER doctor and you are in a state of emergency, you work with county or so forth, you can go and activate a FirstNet line on your personal account. You don't even necessarily have to have an agency paid or, the city pay for it. You can actually have it on your personal line too.
Oh, so those who are in private practice, for example, who might do things like that. See, we never knew about that, did we? I'm glad we had you on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's just as easy as having a phone, making sure we go through the vetting process, because not everybody can just sign up. Right.
Don't let wrong people on there. Blocking the signal.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's as easy as that. And, as much as we look at the future, we also want to create things for you, so we have like local discussions right now about the World Cup, Super Bowl that's coming up, and different agencies talking about how do we work with the federal government, the CIA, the FBI. They too are, the organizations are on FirstNet.
Sure.
So it's just one of those things where it's very exciting to look at the overall picture and what we can provide as a solution with FirstNet.
It's a very smart system. It sounds very smart. Thank you for sharing about that cell phone area and the fact that it's so easy for the user. I mean, it makes sense now. I suppose I was thinking it's a little bit more complicated, but in fact, what you're saying is, no, it's a network, Andrew. You can just use your device when everything goes down. So thank you for that. So when somebody is out there in the field, we sort of briefly touched on it before about having a mobile unit. What types of units do you have that are deployable or happen in these emergency situations?
So we do have, I always call it toys. They're fun toys. Because when you're speaking with, IT folks and directors and those who are really around the technology, we provide, as mentioned before, sat colts, right? Satellite on-light trucks. And we also have even a FirstNet blimp that can be used in time of emergency, especially recently, in the hurricanes out in the southeast and so forth. We actually definitely deploy those to ensure that we have a far range of coverage over land masses. And so we also have ability to do CRDs, right, which is cellular rapid deployables, which allows, it's like if you think about it, think of it as one of those generators that you have at the back of a truck, right? But they're not a generator. It's actually a box with a satellite on top of the white box that you can pull at a deployment site. So that you can find, correct. Yes. You can even get more, mobile with it by having a mini CRD, which is in a Pelican suitcase that you can travel with using satellite panels. And so we have these deployables to really allow to ensure that if you can't take a truck up a mountain and you can't haul the CRD in the back of a truck, you can bring the suitcase. Right. And I'm a hiker, so, not sure if I want to hike with those suitcases, but, if I wanted, I really want a good workout, that definitely is something that I can see can be used, especially in remote areas and remote land. And, for us in the state of California, we have a 7-hour SLA in time of response. And so everywhere else is 12. Right. And for California, we're a little bit more, let's get on it. Let's make sure this happens.
So you were just mentioning there about obviously them being satellite. And from my own experience years ago back in the Army, which was many, many years ago, so it's probably changed now, sometimes you can be just slightly off, almost just a degree or only 50 yards, and you've got no signal. what's the difference between what you're talking about here of how more precise it is?
Well, this is very exciting because I'm always on call. And so when we do have calls for deployable, we do have what's called a triage call. So we work with our emergency response group behind the scenes, our ROG team, to pinpoint where the precise location would be. We work with the agency, the point of contact, and say, okay, this is where we recommend where you would have the satellite dish or the rapid deployable. And so we make sure it's down to the latitude and longitude of the location. We ensure that if there's a need for us to even tweak the towers that's nearby, we can turn the antennas to amplify the coverage itself if we need more capacity. Because there's a mountain and it blocks the signal, right? So you got to see if there's a neighboring tower on the other side to help. So, overall, those are the things that we take a look at, is that we do mapping, we do coverage analysis, including weather, making sure, okay, we have upcoming weather that may be that would not allow the communication to be effective.
Sure.
So how do we go about doing this? Do we bring another sat call? What bandwidth can we provide?
That's some serious heavy support then.
Yes.
It really is.
Absolutely. It's like once we get a phone call, we don't stop working until the deployable's there and set up. So there's a call I can be on for 6 hours, just to ensure that it's up and running.
Do you know, I knew this was going to be an interesting podcast, but I didn't realize it was going to be that exciting.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. That really is.
Yes.
Cool. So one of the things we touched on earlier was the plug and play thing.
Yes.
And when we're looking at, at the local city level, a lot of the folks within the city, they have a lot of experts in different areas. How easy is it? Because it's all going to fall down to the IT guy and the IT team, right? So how easy is it for them to be able to plug into this or switch their system or whatever it is they have to do? What are the, sort of like easier steps that you guys help them with to make it happen?
Absolutely. So when we work with the IT department and with the local agency and city, we sit down and understand what's currently working for them and what is their needs and what are the pain points, as mentioned, so that we can determine if it's just a matter of changing out the SIM card or upgrading them into a different device. So it's just a matter of switching over into, sometimes they want an existing device that they don't need to have an updated phone or they don't need the latest and greatest. That's perfectly fine. Let's just move you into the FIRSTNET network then. Okay. So that's as easy as it can come.
Wow.
You're right.
So it's something like going from one cell phone carrier to another.
Correct. Yes. That's just the baseline.
Okay.
And then if they wanted to move anything from the laptops to increase security from the end user experience, end to end, we call it, then we talk about different types of VPN, right? The virtual private network. And because a lot of cities have their own private network that they need to integrate.
Yeah.
And then we build that with them. So we make sure to go, okay, so what do you currently have? What's your private network? And then let's see what we can do to ensure that it's seamless. And so it's a matter of understanding what's the baseline.
Yeah.
What other important matters to them, which is security and making sure that what type of employee needs it first. Sure. Sometimes it's the frontliners, sometimes security guards, or those who, or even executives that make make important decisions.
Sure.
So it's just a matter of understanding what that needs are, and it could just be as easy as, like I said, so switching over to the device from the carriers.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's almost like it's making their life easier because you've got, let's say, higher levels of security measures that, because they're always worried about people hacking into their system, right? Does that mean that their whole communicational system, internet, whatever, could be a part of this FIRSTNET?
Absolutely. We actually do, look at it from a perspective of, working with the government. The most important thing is having that, encryption from tower to core, so that if anything was, they have their own signal, their own Hove lane, to ensure that there's not any type of proprietary information that's going to be leaked out. And so when we work with cities, we, make sure that we work in conjunctions with their security firewalls. And what's one of the best things that we have with AT&T and FIRSTNET is our Internet of All Things, which is our OT center, which, we are working with other agencies to have their lines on, and think of it as like a dashboard. We all love dashboards, like the sports dashboards. We look at numbers and so forth. Well, this is like a cell phone dashboard, whereas you see all your, cameras or patrol vehicles and so forth on this dashboard, and you can control it. You could be the puppet master on where this is getting turned on or not. So we actually gotten to where we're broadening the ability for a lot of the IT and decision makers to access this through the IoT control center that we provide. Because a lot of the times the hiccups are, oh my gosh, there's so many devices, we can't manage them all. We can't organize them. I have over 200 people and it's just me. With IoT, you can literally look at a frame and who's using too much data. This person's had a phone, but she's no data and no texting. Is she working? Or I'm just, oh my goodness.
Employees aren't going to like to hear this, are they?
No. I'm so sorry, but it's one of those things. It's part of the system. It's so easy.
Your own phone's like that. In fact, my phone tells me whether I've been not long TikTok too long or something.
Yeah. And it's controlling costs. It's important to the city. So when you have on an IoT control platform, you're allowed to see, okay, this employee does not need the unlimited data. Let's put them on the smaller pool data so that, we can save money there. Because I know a lot of things for cities is that we need to make sure we're within budget.
Yes.
Control center can help you control that budget.
Right.
And it can also be very easy to access and also maintained. Because if you need to pause a line, say, okay, we have elections coming up, which is coming up, right?
It is, yeah.
A lot of different things we can do is, have a SIM card that's available, for the iPads, for the poll workers. If you don't need to use it, you can pause it for the year. Right. And so control costs there. So it's super easy and make it sound easy because it is. But it's just one matter of training and getting in front of the right folks to make sure that they're properly educated to use.
No, I apologize for my ignorance on here, but I just do remember from when Fullerton had passed chief of police, he'd done a lot of upgrading for the IT here in the city. He really had done a lot, and we spoke quite a lot about it because I was very interested in everything he'd done. And one of the things the challenges he faced was really trying to keep all the data or information that they have in the city alone, not just the police, but the city itself, almost like safe in a cloud somewhere. Is that also part of what you offer, or is that something different? Because this is to do more with just communication.
No, we offer that also. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we do work in tandem with our enterprise mobility softwares. So if there's something that's in the cloud or that's something that's needed, that's just we call over-the-top software.
Okay.
That rides the signal.
Wow.
So it's not that. So there's no bias. If you need something that's in the cloud, you need something for storage and so forth, we work internally with our AT&T departments that allows that to happen.
Wow. Oh, wow. So it really is a one-stop shop then.
It is. Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
So, I feel like I've got to ask Dan a question because he's sat there smiling.
He's good looking. Well,
I told him he had a face for radio this morning because the way he walked in. But, I suppose he does look a handsome guy, blue eyes, blonde hair, very tall. Dan, when folks come to you and they're thinking, am I really going to go with this? What are the few benefits or maybe even some success stories that you share with the cities or you'd like to share with them to let them know how, not scared they need to be?
Wow. Well, every day there's something going on within FirstNet, right? That is a success story. State of California, as Chanta mentioned, we've got, unfortunately more wildfires than ever before. And every single one of those events, we've got deployables out there, right? For our network. We've got a team that is dedicated. We've got employees that are 100% dedicated to that. We even have volunteer employees that can help facilitate additional needs, right? I'm one of those members. And so I'm really proud of that, right? We've got a really, really dedicated employee base because they believe in it. It's a network system that provides so much benefit to the community. And so for that, I'm happy to talk for hours about with anybody, but really it's technology that nobody else has. It's the ability to make something seamless in a time that's super chaotic, right? Some sort of an event. And it's something that is constantly evolving in partnership with the federal government to make sure that it is as good as it can be, right? Chanta mentioned band 14. Nobody else has access to that, right? That is a subset of bandwidth that we can do so much with FirstNet and share that with all of our subscribers.
And then Chanta, because Dan was just mentioning that, which popped up. What sort of future developments do you see that FirstNet are sort of looking into that, we might not even know about yet? If you're allowed to share them, I don't know.
No, absolutely. I can definitely share what has been already announced, right? So the FirstNet Authority has announced earlier this year to plan to invest $6.3 billion to keep the pace and the advancement that we have within the FirstNet industry, the wireless industry. So so people don't know this, but when agencies and subscribers pay AT&T, actually it goes back to the federal government, the FirstNet Authority, to reinvest the network. So as much as I was like, wow, really, that worked?
Your phone bill.
Yeah, correct. Because we get a little bit of that to pay us back. This is interesting, but part of the contract that's we have to hit a certain milestone in how many towers we build, how many agencies we support. We don't get paid until that happens. And so, this is something that we invested in initially, and we're still investing in. And this is one of the payouts is coming back to us to say, hey, here's more money, do more advancements, and so forth. And so it helps us to scale the innovational tools that we can build. Not only that, include 5G upgrades, as mentioned. We want to make sure that every tower has it. Our small cells, which are little microwave cells around the city. They look like light poles.
Yeah. That
really helps with, broadening that capacity. And so we're looking at that investment along with hopefully another $2 billion in that upcoming year to really focus on rural areas and tribal areas, because that's where a lot of people say there's no coverage, Palm Desert or, out, in between LA and Las Vegas, there's nothing, right? And so we really try to focus on working with cities too, to tell us, please let us know where your pain points are. Please tell us where you need help in coverage. We take that feedback, go back to the FirstNet Authority and our network team and say, I need towers here, here, and here. And here's why. I've been a part of numerous tower builds in the last 7 years. And I can say that it works when we get feedback from cities to say, hey, I need you to help us here. No problem. We'll invest in your cities, which means we have better coverage, better communications, means the civilians and communities live better, right? And so from an advancement standpoint, we've talked about before satellite technology. We talked about increasing the ability to have more deployables out in the field, and also do exercises, fire drills, and also budget. We do a lot of sponsorships for local agencies, county, with the sheriff department, and so forth, to really allow them to give back to their community. And so those also are supported through out of our pockets. Sure. It goes back to the community itself.
So one of the things you were mentioning there is those little, on the top of the lampposts, you start to see a little bit more of them. And I'm assuming in my little mind, it's just like when you're in your home, you have your main internet coming in one area, but they need to push it out so it works.
Repeaters.
Repeaters.
Yes.
So that's really what you're doing on a larger scale.
Correct. Yes.
So as we're on that, and I don't miss to put you on the spot or anything, but you were talking about putting up these different towers. Obviously, that has an impact on people's mindset for the environment. And what we're doing, and I've noticed some of these towers, actually, you don't even know it's a tower. It looks like a big palm tree, right?
Yes.
But so I'm sure AT&T are quite concerned about this. You want to share a little bit about your environment-friendly type of thing?
Absolutely. And Dan, I know you've seen many city councils or public events too. But I can start it off where we do have products that are from the outside in, right? You don't really notice it. They look like palm trees, or they look like different types. They blend into the building and so forth, right? Yeah. And people, when they think of cell towers, they think of it this massive antenna that's made out of steel. But
giving off radioactive
yes.
field.
So we basically show that there are different types and sizes when it comes to these small cells that we provide, and looking at it from a magnifying the signal. It's for us, we don't have, I'm not a scientist or so forth, but I just know that we definitely get our engineers involved, and we work with the city and our external affairs to just stand and communicate that level and that energy, right? And we want to respect, the aesthetics. It's mostly aesthetics, I've noticed, of where we're going to put these small towers and or small cells. And so we just make sure that what we can do is usually on public property, right? Either we can co-locate, we call it, with the city, or in areas that is not close to homes and residential areas, so that we have it broadcast high and go low, right? So it's not in someone's backyard.
Sure.
So, but not sure, Dan, you want to add to that?
I would just kind of emphasize the work we do with cities and city staff and local groups. We'll work with HOAs, whoever may be affected. There's a lot that goes into each individual city's ordinances around cell sites, right? There's federal regulations and all this sort of stuff. So we work very closely. We don't choose locations just sort of arbitrarily. There's a lot of reason. Number one is our network, priority and need. And then secondly, we want to go ahead and take into consideration a bunch of the things Chanta mentioned. We want to stay away from residential, just to respect that as best we can. We want to make sure that it's camouflaged in a way that fits the surrounding area. And then we're always present, at city council meetings, planning commission meetings, to answer questions and talk to, the public as needed, right?
That's really cool. Now, towards, we're sort of like coming to a close of our episode today, and you guys have answered a whole bunch of questions, but it's only fair that we do like we do for everybody else here. So we always give our guests sort of like an open mic moment. So whether we haven't discussed something that you would like to, get off your chest there, good things that is, or maybe there's something we've missed that you want to mention. So I think we'll go with ladies first. So, you got anything you would like to share that we might have missed, or let's say?
Yes, I do. I just want to reiterate the importance around FirstNet and how it is built with and for public safety. The things that we do is designed for our first responders. And when I'm out in the field or I get a phone call about an emergency, it does break my heart when I hear about either there was a loss, and I always ask, is it one of our agencies? Right. And when I hear it's not one of our agencies, I feel like I failed. Yeah. I get really emotional about it, because is it a communication thing? Was it something a blind spot that could have been fixed? I'm a problem solver. I always want, and I'm like a mom. So when you think about someone's daughter and son out in the field and fighting fires or, fighting crimes and so forth, you want to make sure that if something was to happen, their phone is working, their radio is working. And so to me, it's more than just a wireless network and coverage. It's someone's life to me, and to my team. And we take it very seriously. And so when we get a phone call from our customers saying they need help, we drop everything. We have our own families, right? But we also think about their family.
If I was in a need.
Yes, if I was in a need, if my child or if my brother or sister needed help and someone wasn't there to help, that would crush me. And so to me, ultimately, it's more than just a wireless network. It's overall saving lives and making sure our first responders are also, their safety is important.
Well, I can definitely contest with your enthusiasm and your love for it all. Definitely oozes through your personality. So without a doubt, and thank you for that. That's
absolutely
really cool. So Dan, I know, I'm sure you got something to say about that. So I share with. What we going to hit that with?
As Chanta mentioned, we're passionate, in this company to make sure that people stay connected. And connectivity is absolutely vital, right? For just everyday people like you and I, but also it's paramount, right, for first responders. Without that, organization and whatnot is almost impossible. So, to me, FirstNet is an amazing tool, right? I like to kind of fiddle around the house. And so I always have different tools for different things. And it's always nice to have the right tool in your tool belt, right? To respond to certain situations. And FIRSTNET is a multi-tool, right? It fits so many different areas. It's got so much support, and it's going to stick around. As Chanta mentioned, it's got a 25-year contract we're a few years into, and a lot of support from the federal government. So it's exciting, watching Chanta's team, meet with all these different agencies, and seeing all the new subscribers jump on, is inspiring. So I'd close with that.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, no, it's
Wow.
good. Nice. He's a good little boss there, isn't he? So just before I end the show here, so Chanta, if a city manager or what is it, CI, what are they? CIOs or somebody needs to get a hold of you, or even wants to find out more information, how do they go about contacting your office?
Well, definitely, first thing we want to make sure is, to let them know about our website, firstnet.com. Right. And also there's a need to contact us directly. You can contact me. I have no problem getting emails. I work by my phone. So my email address is basically cp244 F as in Frank @att.com. You can directly reach out to me because I am, as Dan know, I'm always accessible. I might not respond right away, but I'll definitely make sure that not only I take care of yourself personally, but I'll make sure that someone within the organization makes sure to take care of you.
Well, I mean, you should be accessible if you're sort of basically selling this amazing FIRSTNET. You should be having direct contact too.
Absolutely,
that would be a fail, wouldn't it? That would. So anyway, so thank you so very much, both of you, for coming on. And I think today's episode has been extremely fun, and I've really learned a lot today. I don't,
awesome.
We as normal folks, we don't really think about who else is taking care of our emergency services when they're out there. And you're right, down that tool belt analogy, I think is a very good one, is they want to be able to pull whatever they needed out at that moment in time. So thank you both for coming on and sharing that with us today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening today. If you've enjoyed our conversation and want to hear more inspiring stories and business insights, please be sure to visit chambertalk.podbean.com, where you can find all our episodes. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay connected and keep making a difference.